In a noisy shelter full of barking dogs, one German shepherd stayed silent until a little girl stopped at his cage. Suddenly, his eyes filled with tears and he began to cry. What happened next stunned everyone, because this wasn't just a meeting. It was a reunion years in the making. The shelter was always noisy, barks echoing off the walls, claws scratching against metal cages, the constant shuffle of people passing through. But inside one kennel, a German shepherd lay quietly, his head resting on his paws. Unlike the others, he didn't bark for attention anymore. He had learned that no one ever stopped for him. Every day was the same. Volunteers brought food, cleaned his cage, and moved on. Families walked past, their eyes darting toward younger, smaller dogs, never lingering on him. He watched them leave, tail unmoving, as hope drained from his eyes a little more each day. Yet deep down, he remembered a different life, a warm home, the sound of laughter, the feeling of belonging. Those memories kept him waiting, even when hope felt impossible. Because somewhere in his heart, he still believed that one day, someone he loved would come back. That Saturday morning, the shelter buzzed with visitors. Families wandered the aisles, pointing at wagging tails and cheerful barks. Among them was a little girl in a bright pink dress, her parents walking close behind. She clutched her mother's hand tightly, eyes wide as she looked at row after row of cages. Her parents had promised they would adopt a dog, a new companion for their home. But for the girl, this trip felt strange, almost like something was pulling her here. She walked slowly, carefully, as though waiting for something she couldn't quite explain. Passing playful puppies and excitable dogs, she didn't stop. Her gaze moved steadily down the row until it landed on one kennel at the far end. There, lying silently against the bars, was a German shepherd with tired, soulful eyes. The girl froze. Her heart skipped a beat. Something about him felt familiar. The German shepherd lifted his head slowly, his dull eyes meeting the girl's. For a moment, he seemed uncertain, like every other time a stranger paused at his kennel. But then something shifted. His ears perked, his body stiffened, and a low whine slipped from his throat. The girl stepped closer, pressing her small hands against the cold metal bars. Her eyes widened, filling with tears as she whispered softly, "It's you." The dog inched forward, his nose pushing through the bars, trembling as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Then, to the shock of everyone nearby, tears welled in the shepherd's eyes. He pawed frantically at the cage, his whimpers growing louder, echoing through the shelter. The volunteers froze, whispering in disbelief. This was no ordinary reaction. The girl turned to her parents, her voice breaking. "I know him. This isn't just any dog, this is ours." The parents exchanged stunned glances, unsure what to believe. But as they turned back, the shepherd pressed desperately against the bars, his cries growing more urgent. It was as if he was pleading for them to understand. This wasn't coincidence. This was recognition. Years earlier, the German shepherd had lived a very different life. He wasn't a number in a shelter, nor a face behind steel bars. He had a name, a warm bed, and a little girl who used to curl beside him at night, her laughter filling the house with joy. They were inseparable. He followed her everywhere, chasing balls in the yard, guarding her while she played, lying at her feet when she read her storybooks aloud. To him, she wasn't just family. She was his entire world. But then came the stormy night. A gate left unlatched, a clap of thunder that sent him bolting into the dark. By the time the family searched, he was gone, wandering, lost, and frightened. Days turned into weeks, then months. He was picked up by animal control miles away, with no tags, no collar, no way to prove where he belonged. The shelter became his prison, and slowly, hope slipped from him. Yet deep inside, he never forgot the sound of her voice, the scent of her tiny hands, the bond that nothing could erase. Now, standing before him again, was the little girl he had thought he'd lost forever. The girl's voice carried through the shelter. "This is our dog. He belongs with us." Her parents hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances as the shepherd cried behind the bars, pawing at the metal like he could break through it. One of the shelter staff approached cautiously. "I'm sorry," she said gently. "A lot of families say dogs look familiar." "Are you sure?" "I know him," the girl insisted, her eyes never leaving the dog's face. "This is Max." At the sound of his old name, The shepherd froze. His ears shot up, tail thumping wildly against the floor. He barked once, sharp and clear, as if answering her. The parents gasped, and even the staff members exchanged stunned looks. But policy was strict. Papers had to be checked, proof had to be shown. The girl dropped to her knees, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Please, don't let him stay here. He's my best friend." The shepherd whimpered louder, pressing his nose against the bars, trying desperately to reach her hand. The entire shelter seemed to fall silent, caught between rules and something undeniable, a bond too real to ignore. The standoff wasn't just about adoption anymore. It was about family. The shelter staff folded their arms, their expressions uncertain. "We need proof," one of them said firmly. "Anyone could say a dog is theirs." The girl wiped her tears and stood tall, her voice steady despite trembling lips. "I can prove it. Watch." She crouched close to the bars and whispered, "Max, roll over." The German shepherd immediately dropped to the floor, rolling onto his back with his paws in the air, tail thumping furiously. Gasps erupted from the staff. Her parents exchanged stunned looks. "That's his favorite trick," her mother whispered. The girl's smile widened through her tears. "And this," she added softly, pulling a small, worn tennis ball from her coat pocket. "He never went anywhere without this." The shepherd whined loudly, pawing the air, eyes fixed on the ball. When she tossed it gently through the bars, he caught it in his mouth and let out a bark of pure joy. Silence filled the shelter. The staff's skepticism melted into awe. This wasn't coincidence. This was memory. One worker finally nodded, her own eyes misty. "There's no doubt. He remembers her." And with those words, the barriers between them felt weaker than ever before. The shelter staff hurried to gather the necessary forms, their usual routine now charged with emotion. Papers rustled, pens scratched, and for once, the process felt less like bureaucracy and more like destiny. The girl could hardly contain herself. She pressed against the bars, whispering to Max, who wagged his tail so hard it rattled his whole body. Every whimper now sounded like laughter, every bark like a cry of relief. When the final signature was complete, the gate swung open. Max leapt forward, nearly knocking the girl over as he covered her face with wet, desperate kisses. She squealed with joy, arms wrapping tightly around his neck. The parents watched in awe, their doubts gone, their hearts full. Even the shelter workers wiped at their eyes. After years apart, Max was finally going home, not as a stray, but as family once more. That night, as Max curled up at the foot of the girl's bed, the house felt whole again. Years of loss melted away in the warmth of reunion. The shepherd, once forgotten behind shelter bars, was now exactly where he belonged. For the girl, it was proof that love never fades. For Max, it was proof that hope is worth holding on to. Sometimes, the ones we lose find their way back to us, not by chance, but by fate. And when they do, it reminds us, family is forever.